Welcome back, folks. As we normally say it, hello darlings, welcome back to the channel, and please remember to click the like and subscribe buttons. Lots to tell you this morning. Interestingly enough, the gent just over in the distance, slightly to the right in the yellow high-vis, came over to me a few minutes ago, very close. I'm like, sorry, is there a problem? Have you lost something? He's like, no, I'm just inspecting the monuments for graffiti. I said, oh, so people like to graffiti these monuments? He said, yes. I've been doing this since 2006, okay? In other words, nearly 20 years he's been removing graffiti, only for it to come back again. Yep, not an easy job, and very much a thankless task. So, let's begin. I mean, if some of you saw the interesting little reel yesterday on Instagram of a certain person having a meltdown, you would already know that. One, I'm John. Two, apparently I'm a plant. Perhaps even a vegetable, I don't know, perhaps even a rancid cabbage, one doesn't know. Now, you're all keen to know the answer to one question, folks. Will the foot relief, there we are, got it out. Will the foot relief return? Right, so, I mean, I spent probably way too much time last night talking with the troopers about their thoughts and getting a bit of info about what people are thinking, not only vis-a-vis the decision, but vis-a-vis the future of the foot relief and horse guards as well. Now, a little teeny bit of background. There has been discussion in the past about an amalgamation between the HCAV and the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery. That was, at the time, briefly squashed just because it would mean that either the guns be retired to the museum and the gunners join HCAV, or HCAV need to be trained, as are the gunners, to use those heavy guns and carriages. So for the moment that was put aside and thought, apparently it's been brought back up again, it's been floated. There are different options. That would also explain why the King's Troop are going to be back this year several times, okay, between now and the end of the year. More on that nearer the time. Right, so, in terms of the foot relief, it's, whoop, camera's moving, it's removal for the moment. I can tell you two things, folks. One, the troopers themselves will have a say, okay, in if and when the foot relief will return. Their opinions will be passed to seniors, who will ultimately make the decision vis-a-vis, whether or not returning the foot relief and at what stage is the correct decision, based on support in the regiment and obviously discussion among officers and others at London District, which is the headquarters for the Army here in London. Also, both of the regiments have a massive new Commonwealth intake. We will be seeing a hell of a lot of new faces, people, including a very large contingent who have arrived from Ghana and who are going to be joining HCAV. So it's going to be great to see all the new lads and, in fact, some new ladies, so I've been told, in the coming weeks and months. Now, the balance of probabilities at this point suggests that the future should see gatesmen and chitsmen returning, okay? Now, to confirm, and this is absolutely rock solid, ignore the speculation, ignore the rubbish you've read or been told on other channels, either by the channel owner or by people in the comments, okay? It's nonsense, completely rubbish. This is the actual situation. The two posts, gatesman, chitsman, have not, let me confirm, not been abolished, okay? Despite the nonsense that you've read elsewhere, they have not been abolished. Nor are we anywhere near the end of horse guards, as I think some people were trying to lead you to believe. Okay, it's not going to happen. What is going to happen is this process of consultation. All of these new troopers that are going to go into each of the regiments. And after all of that is done, a decision will be made as to when the foot relief will return. Okay? So it's open-ended. In other words, for the moment, nothing to worry about, ladies and gents, okay? Think about it as a consultation exercise before all else, okay? Right, that's that dealt with. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, ladies and gents, the Elizabeth Cup 2025. Behind closed doors this year. I can't really go into too much info about why, but I will tell you one thing, which will definitely help you to understand why it was held without the media, or without a media presence. Now, I did look through the names of the troopers that were in the Elizabeth Cup this year, having Googled some of those names, certainly the most unusual ones, there are no matches. So as far as I'm aware, Army Press Office, London District, etc., have not yet put out any info about the Elizabeth Cup 2025, who took part, and favourites, shall we say. So if it's not there, then I am obviously not going to be announcing the troopers' names. Last year, I didn't even do it during the filming. However, the day afterward, they were released. So if the Army are going to release the names, they'll be up very, very, very soon. But I got no matches on the names in this year's Elizabeth Cup, and surname plus Elizabeth Cup as a Google, in other words, search, no matches at all. So for the moment, that has to stay private. But I can tell you this, okay, folks, this will make you smile. The current favourite, and this is having spoken to some of the lads in both the regiments, the current favourite is a Blues and Royals trooper, okay? Again, yeah, I mean, last year we know Trooper J, we know his name, but let's just refer to him as Trooper J, who was the favourite, and remarkably was the opening shot when he's preparing Monty in that video that we were fortunate enough to be able to shoot at barracks. That hasn't happened this year anywhere in the media, so you will not be seeing footage unless it's been something internal for the Army that they might decide to release at a later date. But I know there was no wider media presence. So, yes, Blues and Royals favourite. I'm a little bit on the fence in terms of, I know who it is, and honestly, to be frank and direct, I've mentioned the trooper several times. He's relatively new to the regiment, joined last year. We've seen him a good few times, not a lot of times, on duty, primarily as a boxman. Exceedingly well-presented fellow, great smile, good-looking lad, rest of it. I can see him, I can see it. I don't want to jinx it, so for the moment I'm not going to say any more. If we get a list released by the Army and we see that trooper in the box, I will mention that, hey, this is blah blah, and he's a favourite within the regiment. I don't want to in any way jinx it, if that makes sense. But let's just say that, yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, I'm not going to say it, but let's just say that there's a very good chance, because he's very, very well liked and a true professional. Okay? Simple as that. Which is great. Now, next point. I did ask if it was okay to share this, and I was told it is okay to share this. So here it goes. Elizabeth Cup format was a little different this year. It was a mix of, and I quote, inverted commas, soldier skills, okay? It was fitness, horsemanship, soldiering, and, of course, kit. Now, I leave kit till last because there was an issue this year. Again, reading verbatim. We tried to bring in a new kit cleaner, basically a paint that makes the kit look nice to save time on polish and waxing the kit. It was a massively expensive deal, but the kit is already peeling and breaking, so I think it's going to be sacked off. In other words, I think they're going to revert to the traditional spit, polish, hand finish on the kit from next year, okay? The last comment was, and again verbatim, it made the kit almost look like plastic. Yeah, like a patent leather as opposed to the real thing. And yeah, it didn't go down well, folks, either with the troopers themselves, who obviously thought it might help save time, as did their officers, but in fact the exact opposite. And looking at the pictures, I've been seeing quite a few pictures of the kit. Yeah, I'll be honest, the caption on the kit looks terrible, and I did say to the troopers, I agree, to be honest, guys, it doesn't look very nice at all. It's a bit smudgy, a bit murky. Yeah, just not good, folks. So that's that. I don't know if that's part of the reason why the media were not invited, but let's just say it probably is a very good thing the media were not invited, because the kit, and no offence to the troopers, this is using their words themselves, the kit looks very hazy. Okay, it's a mess. It's not coming up with that bright shine, sheen, reflective surface that we've seen before in last year's video, and indeed when the troopers are here on duty. Okay, so that's that. More in the Elizabeth Cup, and I will obviously happily confirm the entrance, etc., etc., if and when the Army publish that information, or I get the go-ahead to publish it, then I will do so. It's important to me that I don't say anything that I shouldn't say, because if I do, nobody will talk to me, and that's that. Right, on we move. Today's video is going to potentially be a curious one. It might be one of two things. Depending on what we find when we get there, it's either going to be a completely fresh video of solely based on what we see here and experience here at Horseguards when we get there in a minute, or it's going to be a bit of a splice. It's going to be today's footage, in other words, this opener, a little bit more of what we saw with yesterday's part 2, which was more of an addendum than a full part. I think it's about 30 minutes long, added on to the end. So it's really going to depend on what sort of atmosphere is at Horseguards State, if it's busy, if there's anyone around, which boxman we've got, etc, etc. Now, looking back up at glorious Big Ben in Elizabeth Tower, it's 20 past 12. That means we'll hit Horseguards, as I hope, to noon, which means we'll get to see the 2 troopers currently on, and more importantly, the 2 that will replace them. In other words, we'll get to see all 4 troopers. Now, the crossing here, oh my good lord, it's a real mess, people. We've got kind of, I can't actually even see any green lights. I don't even know if this is an official crossing point, which means I need to go all the way around, which I'm definitely not doing, I can tell you that. So I think we're going to take it carefully, step by step. Okay, so the coach has stopped. Traffic is in front of me. I think for the moment we're good. If it's moving there, and the last one, past the toot bus, there we are. Right, that was easier than I was anticipating, to be fair. So that's that, guys. Everything is very, very, very much up in the air. You know, there is an awful lot going on behind the scenes. Obviously, this issue with this new product that was introduced for the kit. Yeah, really unfortunate, to be honest. Especially as this was the first major ceremonial. Oh, Jogger man wanted to give us a little V sign. I'm just listening to the bells. That's actually, I've just realised, sorry, it's Westminster Abbey. I'm thinking, why are we still listening to Big Ben? And then I suddenly realised we're not listening to Big Ben because it's not Big Ben. It's the bells in the Abbey. Okay, so decent-ish. Oh, look at this dude in his sunglasses. He's looking into the sky. He's like, oh, I can see another galaxy. I've always wondered what's there. Perhaps one day I'll get to explore it with my friend Elon. I like it most actually when people do decide to open the door. Oh great, just as it's kind of clear. Now it gets busy yet again. 1 second, folks. We'll wait till this bro, Jean-Michael Vincent, minus the hair, has finished. Who's next? Okay, they finished up, and it's now her turn, which means we need to move. Now, is it busy today? Not really. Certainly warmer than yesterday. Good number of people about, as you can see, kind of bustly, hustly, etc. That doesn't necessarily mean Horseguards will be the same. If anything, it could be far busier, or it could be completely dead. We will not know until we get there. However, one benefit over yesterday is that it's considerably warmer. And now, weirdly enough, the headline temperature is exactly the same, but there is 0 wind chill today. So back with no gloves and very comfortable filming conditions, in all honesty. Light isn't great, but hey, you can't have it all, people, am I right? Pretty much. Department for Culture, Media and Sport. So everything's going to be hugely in the air when we get there. Now, I did raise the issue of the thoughts vis-a-vis the gatesman coming to the front and his function occasionally of helping out the troopers. Now, turn the camera, big school group. The response that I got was as follows. As we all know, at the end of last year, cameras were put up in the boxes, okay? So the troopers, and more importantly the guard room, which is also massively upgraded CCTV-wise, have complete sight of everything happening in and around the boxes, okay? In other words, if there is an issue, it's very easy to make the guard room aware of the issue and for the stableman or another one of the troopers to come out and assist with that issue. Okay? Before we had those cameras in the boxes, the troopers were largely blind, as it were, in the sense that it wasn't as clearly monitored. Okay, not just the presence of the cameras, but also the quality of those feeds, etc. Now everything can be seen, including the faces of tourists. This is how people in the crowd are spotted. Blah 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 blah. So the gatesman's function, in some respect, I was going to say is in some respect redundant. That's not quite an accurate statement. That's a little bit too harsh. Let's just say that the necessity of the gatesman needing to check on his colleagues isn't there with the urgency that it was before those new cameras were installed in the box, if that makes sense. So there were lots of things to think about. Also, the massive popularity of horse guards, not just the horses and the guards and the history, the pageantry and the architecture, but just the whole place as a bit of a people watching space. Okay, and yes, folks, you are free to, if you want to, blame me or anyone else that films or has filmed, for casting more of a light on the place. The reality is that it is exceedingly popular. Every single tour guide and tour group now includes horse guards on their itinerary. In some respects, that's wonderful. Why? It's an important part of London and of British history. In other respects, it's a negative. Why? Because, as you've seen, sometimes we have absolutely insane overcrowding. Now, given that the historic public right-of-way has existed for a long time between the Mall and Whitehall via horseguardsparade and the yard, it's not as simple as, hey, close the gates and stop everybody. It doesn't work like that. Rights-of-way, public access, very complicated in English law, exceedingly so, which is part of the problem. That's why it took so long to get agreement to have the white boxes painted, folks, on the ground. Yeah, alas. That said, the other issue, of course, is that those exceedingly heavy gates would need to be constantly swung open and closed if they decide to go the route of effectively, restricting or abolishing public right-of-way through the yard. Now, it would be possible, but there are a couple of issues that are related to that. First of all, if they do that and close the front gates, MOD they're going to stand in the yard behind the closed gates. What if there's an issue at the front? They need to open the gates and then deal with it. Ditto. If they stand at the front, they're going to have to open the gates to go back in the yard to deal with it. I say deal with it, I mean any other issues that might come up. One never knows. It would also massively restrict light into the yard if the parade ground side entrance exit into the tunnel were permanently closed for public access. So there's a lot to think about, guys. To describe it as complicated and complex is a massive understatement. There's just so much going on in terms of that access, public expectation, things that have been established over time that are making, a change because you think it might be a good or bad change. It's not that simple. We've got multi-layers here. We've got, we've got the London Mayoralty, we've got Westminster Council, we've got the military. Add in, for example, English heritage. The fact it's a grade 1, I think, listed building. What I'm trying to say is that it is more complicated and convoluted, and probably would take an entire room of lawyers a long time and a hell of a lot of cost to resolve. It's not like in some countries where one person decides something and it magically happens. I'm not saying that makes it better or worse, I'm just saying that that's a reality of the complexities of English law and access to these kind of sites. Now, you might have seen we've got, at this end at least, one of the troopers that was out yesterday. Gents removed his little red beanie. Use it as like a little cushion to sit on. That's actually probably quite smart, to be fair. At the other end this morning, and I will go there and focus on that in a minute, we've got a trooper that was not out in the boxes yesterday. Now, the second part from yesterday, folks, even if it doesn't end up as part of today's video, it will at some point get published. I'll really base it on what we get here, because at the moment, in all honesty, just minding the traffic behind me, there are more people at the front than there were yesterday, which is an incredibly curious thing, but that, dear viewer, is the reality. So if we arrive at the other end, we can see some mustard corduroy trousers in the first instance. But yes, the trooper that wasn't here yesterday, let me correct myself, that wasn't here at the front in the box yesterday, of course he was here with the troop, but he wasn't on duty when I was here yesterday, is today. I've also swapped over the MOD officers, so... Oh, there's a hello boy said to the horsey, who's like, hello. That's a good way to stand though, respectful, hands crossed. Very David Bellamy-esque. Who's next? The problem with actually splicing together 2 days of footage is how do I date it? Yesterday or today? I mean, perhaps both, arguably. We've got a good flavour of what will happen at the other end if people go into the box, because we got a good amount of time with the other trooper. This gent is right in the box. There we go, but not for long. Big up the trooper, respect, eh? There we are, straight away. That was actually quite a loud excuse me. He didn't even shout, but he's got a very powerful voice. Well done.
Get out of the box!
There we go. Time for a Chinese takeaway. I mean, how complicated is it fundamentally to understand that if there's a box on the floor, it means don't enter it? Very curious, no? Who's next? That's it. Horse has gone for a walk. Now the question is, folks, is he going to go to Trafalgar Square, or is he going to come back to the box? Being super careful with where I walk. I obviously don't want to walk into the bollard, which is right behind me. I'm not going to stand behind it. I'm not entirely sure if that was the horse reacting or whether the trooper decided to use the horse to force them back. Either way, it's still a positive, isn't it? Let's be honest. Police at the front gate, so it is what it is. Always happens pretty much when we first arrive, when we first turn up. Is that the first time or I don't know. I mean, yeah, some couple of idiots got straight in the box and the trooper shouted at them. Yeah, which was predictable. Yeah, very predictable. I don't think that was it. I'm pretty sure the horse just decided to go for a little walk. Yeah, he didn't sort of. I don't think that I saw a gesture to, like charge them with a horse or whatever. They weren't that rude. They were rude, but not like crazy rude. Oh yeah, exactly that. Yeah. I mean, at least they left, so that's got to be positive. By the way, the foot guards are not gone permanent. Anyone that's saying that is talking rubbish.
No, 6 month minimum. And then that's
Nope.
what he told me.
No. They're going to have a discussion, and the troopers are going to give their feedback to the officers about whether they think it should return and how soon. But soon, there's a massive new load of guys arriving, Commonwealth troopers in both regiments. Lots and lots of guys, Fiji, Ghanaians.
Different countries coming.
Yeah, lots and
But
lots.
they're inside.
They're going to be joining HCAV, but they're going to be, we're going to have like a lot of the new Commonwealth lads, like the Fijians. We're going to have the Ghanaians and the Fijians. So it's going to be, numbers are going to go up healthily, etc. And things are, I think, will return to.
This is why I said to you yesterday, I don't know, I just guessing.
Yeah, lots of speculation.
The one who spoke to
Yeah.
he said to me 6 months minimum. we don't know. And I said to that,
It's going to be interesting to see whether or not they're back by the summer. I mean, I wouldn't bet on it either way. I think it's 50-50. But as long as they do come back.
Whoever goes first is the winner.
Yeah, but to be quite honest with you, I've always seen that in the sense that the key thing is not how quickly it's posted, but the quality of it when it's posted.
I understand.
Fair? You always strive for amazing quality. You know?
I know that. I'm not worried. I'm only uploading shorts and all this.
Yeah, you are, how to say this?
How much I want.
Yeah, but you decided to focus on the shorts option.
Yeah.
I said to you at the time, I thought that was good because your channel went ballistic.
That will never happen again in my life.
It will. Wait and see.
No.
There are always these bounce backs. I've seen it before.
Look, can you see that? And that was the last time I earned decent money. I had some. Look at that. 300, 400, 500. That's it.
I know. No, I get it. I understand. But there's a massive difference between running shorts and running something which is interactive. I said to you before, that really is the most important thing anyway, isn't it? You know, it trumps this in any respect.
So, 1 trip, 1 year now, 1.5 years.
Yep. It's a lot to think about, isn't it? Okay, folks. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Just talking with a friend of mine there. He's been here on and off for more than 6 years. He was one of the first 2 people ever to start filming here. But he decided to focus on shorts for, as you heard, personal reasons. And I said to him at the time, it's a smart idea. Yeah, he is the second biggest channel in London. Now, back to what we were talking about before, this issue of the return. Now, it's an interesting thing because if you ask, not all, but some, let's get away from the noise at the front for a minute, some of the MOD officers, they will say 3 months, 6 months, indefinitely. Okay? The reason being, no decision has been taken, so there's no way of anyone actually knowing how long it's going to be. The yard and entry to the stable area is being swept and kept spick and span. And interestingly, folks, despite the empty spot for the chitsman, it is absolutely pristine and immaculate. I can see, as can all of you, that the cobblestones have been swept. Great to see, eh? This place is not going to fall into some sort of disrepair, guys. The gates are not going to be locked. Everybody's not going to be thrown out, and it's not going to become some sort of historical relic. Guard shop, which is attached to the museum, would be one of the first things to go if there were an intent to restrict or close access to the yard, because it would be completely useless if nobody can get in to buy anything. And the same on this side. Might give a bit of time actually to treat that mould issue, which has been quite pervasive and persistent for some time, in all honesty. Boot scraper. I've never actually seen that being used, the boot scraper in the corner. I wonder as well, I will try, when I see ones that I know that know I'm always recording, I will try to speak to some of the tour guides and ask them what they think the impact, if any, is going to be on their work here with tourists and visitors during the holiday period and the summer. Instinctively, I do think it will impact on the organised tours, but not necessarily in a huge negative way. So let's see. If I spot anyone that I know well enough, I will ask. I'm not going to stick a camera in his or her face, but I'll ask politely if they're willing to give me a couple of words about what they think the impact is going to be. I think, in all honesty, it will be negligible, because the majority of people that arrive here with a tour group, whether organised large group or private tour, aren't even aware often of the presence of any guards, let alone multiple guards. Flip the camera around. Oh, look at this cutie. One of you will know both of them, I'm sure. I don't recognise the one on the left. We might well have seen it before multiple times, but I don't recognise Horsey on the left. So if any of you do, great, drop it in the comments. Yeah, so based on the fact that a lot of people don't even know about the function of this place and that there is a mounted guard as well as a foot guard, well there was, I don't think it's going to impact fundamentally, because for the majority of tourists, the money shots, as it were, are obviously the palace, by far, like massively by far. And I do think potentially the tour groups might decide to improvise somewhat and change their hours to include walks past Wellington Barracks. Why? That might well fill up the gap, shall we say. So, I had a feeling he was going to stand right in front of the camera. Try to sort of jig myself around a little bit so that I get a clear-ish view over the box without anyone's head. I didn't even realise actually this is another tour group. Yeah, she's a tour guide. I thought she was just a random visitor who wanted a brief interaction with the horse, but no, it's not. So how long has the trooper got? 15 minutes, folks, until he swaps. I wasn't actually expecting today that we would see new faces, so I'm very intrigued as to see which new faces might replace the new faces after the next changeover. I mean, potentially we might see who we saw yesterday. Equally, we might see someone else. Huh? I have no idea what he just said. No idea at all. Curious. Who's this fine-looking gent, folks? Senior military or politician? Looks familiar. It's very familiar, actually. Another thing I can mention, now I'm sort of safely out of earshot of everyone, is the positive upside to the changes this side of the gate. Okay? In other words, for people that visit and record and live stream. Now, I've long advocated, at least since last autumn, that live streaming here be prohibited. Not my decision, never will be, but that's my take on it, and I've told you why, because I think that some of the accidents that have been captured, some very serious accidents, folks, that you've never seen, that yours truly captured both during live streaming and afterward, should never ever see the light of day. That can't be guaranteed if one is live streaming. People screen cap and reuse that footage, post it on Facebook. Basically they steal it and use it. That's the problem. However, I do think that as there is now less, and I dislike this word, but it's a word that a lot of people use, content, inverted commas, because we have 50% less guard than we had this time last week. I think that a lot of the sort of base level spammy types will hopefully move on. Yeah, that could be a huge positive, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to watch a video with no comedy, no humour, no interaction with the immediate environment, and more importantly, no key moment, because it's not happening. Oh, the other thing I completely forgot to mention at the opener. Damn it! Sorry, folks. This is another key. I don't know how I slipped on that. I noticed in the comments yesterday there was a lot of speculation about whether or not it was due to harassment, mocking of the troopers by different groups, certain groups, whatever. Okay, it doesn't matter who. And if that's why the foot guards were removed, because of that constant harassment and people, visitors and other people getting their faces. A lot of these troopers, folks, have seen action. Okay, a lot of them haven't, but a lot of them have, especially the NCOs. Oh, this guy is totally in space. He's got a bloody head as well. What's going on there? Yeah, especially the NCOs. Do we seriously think that the higher-ups would have gone into Hyde Park and said, "Oh, lads, we are dreadfully, frightfully sorry that you've been laughed at. We're now going to remove you from duty." Just think about it logically. Okay. Likewise, could you imagine the troopers going up to their NCO or a senior officer and crying, "Oh, he laughed at me." Folks, this is the British Army, okay? It's not going to happen. So there is no correlation at all between some of the recent videos we've seen, historic footage, and the behaviour of some tourists and groups here, and this decision to, for the moment, remove the foot relief, okay? That's the most preposterous theory. I understand why, because of the timing, some of you might have thought that, okay? And certain other channels have emphasised that point a little bit too strongly in an attempt, to get clicks, but it's not the case. It has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on the decision, okay? As I mentioned yesterday, and I don't have permission to state it, you're welcome to, to speculate. There is one single reason that the foot guards have been removed, and that reason will also determine the point at which they will return. Simple as that. So for the moment, I think I've pretty much covered everything we needed to cover. We'll be in the yard for the changeover, on the corner. Why? Because then we get to see the new horses. Yes, that will come out and replace the existing two. That other horse, just like yesterday, in fact, I say just like yesterday, same end as yesterday, he's a bit skittish. I don't know why, but he's, little teeny bit skittish with the bridle. He's a little bit like, "Wow, what's wrong?" I don't know what's wrong, but he's not in a good mood. You can see it. Look, I don't think he's actually going to come out and run away along the street like the other one did. I mean, I certainly hope he won't. Okay, this gent very politely said, "Is it okay to stand here for a picture?" And the trooper gave him the nod, which, to be honest, is kind of what we would have expected. Thinking back actually to yesterday, I think the trooper we're looking at now was at the other end, was he not? And a different trooper was at this end. But then again, we did see 4 yesterday, and I can't remember which order they were out, so it's a bit of both. There are people coming through into the yard, but if there's nothing to capture their interest, and there isn't actually, they've put out the board about the King's Lifeguard will not change today, then everyone that enters the yard is going to leave the yard and come out to the front here. Horsey's getting a little bit restless and cloppy. He's got 10 minutes, folks. Key question, will he make it to the end? Answer to that is, I have absolutely no idea. I think a lot's going to depend on his response when the stableman comes out shortly and opens up the doors. Notice Horsey glancing over his left shoulder. Is there an escape route? There isn't for the moment, folks. And to be honest, it's probably a good thing that the rear doors are not open yet, because as you can see, there is a sizable tour group, regular tour guide with his group, right behind the rear doors, which obviously would be somewhat problematic if Horsey decided to make a run for it. I prefer for the moment to film from the side, and I will focus back on this horse if he gets a little skittish again. I don't think either of the horses are going to run away, but until I review the footage, I really can't see whether or not the trooper in front of us used the reins as a gesture to move the horse forward, or whether the horse just had a little bit of a moment, beautifully timed moment, with those rude Chinese tourists.
Did that man ruin it? Sorry. Did that man in green ruin your picture?
Oh, did that man in green ruin your picture? I don't even see a man in green. I must be, what if it's like polarized sunglasses? There is no man in green here, anywhere. So I'm super confused. Actually, wait, there's one second, I'm not sure if he's about to leave. Yeah, he's going the other way. There's one tour guide that just left the yard. Would have been great to speak to him. We spoke to him last week and he's lovely. Exactly 9 minutes, ladies and gents, or about 5 until they start telling everybody to move themselves back. I think we've established that there are upsides and downsides to this change. Water behind us. Yep, still settled until he's unsettled. Let me get myself out of the way. Hungry soldier. I know how he feels, guys, actually, to be honest. Still debating whether to have breakfast when I finish today or to head straight for lunch, to be honest. I didn't yet eat. I had a swim. Wasn't hungry enough to eat, so I thought, you know what, I'll wait. Problem is, it never happens. 1 second. There's little Jack behind us with climbing kit. Big Ben Safety on his bag. BigBenSafety.com. That's interesting. I was just about to say, let's ask him. I don't want to sit the camera in his face, but I wanted to ask him if he's going to climb Big Ben. Not only that, on the back of his high vis it says New Chief. So New Chief, BigBenSafety.com. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming that he will be climbing up the tower at some point today. Or not. I mean, we're not going to know now, are we? Unless I followed him to Parliament Square, which I'm obviously not going to do. Okay, we're now this side. I don't want to stand directly in front of the horse because he's not in a good mood, as you can see. Gosh, everyone's walking directly in front now. Sorry, guys. I was hoping to get a reasonably quiet spot.
We can actually go in here. Yeah. So just go.
I think I'll pop myself here briefly until we see those doors open. I like this spot because I can actually see the entrance to the stables, and hence when the stableman is going to come out and open the doors. I also wonder how tourists going into the archways will be treated, whether or not anyone is going to care and tell them or ask them to tell them to get out of the archways or not, because to be quite frank, when the MOD officers are at the front, when they're a pair looking at what's happening here, nobody can see what's going on in the yard. In other words, if there's no gatesman or chitsman other than the guard room, no one is actively monitoring people potentially walking into the archways. I didn't notice, and actually I think the chains are up, aren't they, across both arches? So, I mean, that should be a bit of a giveaway that it's not publicly accessible, but then again, if people would walk in there as they have done before, when the trooper is standing there, especially on the gatesman side, I don't think a simple chain is going to keep them back, is it? I honestly think, as you get in royal palaces and elsewhere, a red rope would be a good idea. A semicircle around either arch with a red rope. That way people would regard it as they would regard treasured items in the room of a royal palace, as something that can be viewed but not touched or in any way approached at very close quarter. So a hell of a lot of unanswered questions, guys, between now and I mean, actually between now and indefinitely. There we are. Oh. An unfortunate. I can't actually tell if you're speaking Spanish or Italian. Italian. Yeah, Italiano. Oops. Okay, so both troopers today are doing the exact opposite of what they were doing yesterday. Curious, but there we are. Instinctively, I would guess, and to be honest, I can understand why potentially morale would have been low yesterday. Oh, he still can't decide, can he, whether he wants to quit or wait for the bell. The horse, that is. Okay, here's the gent. Let's see if he does the same as his wife. He's approaching more carefully. Incidentally, the chap who was abusive toward Colin Having run it by several people that have watched the video, we know two things. 100% he was not French, okay? My best friend was like, of course he's not French. There's nothing about him, mannerisms, look, but most importantly of all, his speech and intonation that would ever lead any French person to think he were French. The consensus is on a possible Italian-Greek mix. Right, there are the doors opening at the back of the box, as I mentioned. Or a door. Wait, here comes the second one. Got the same stableman as yesterday, so they haven't rotated the stableman, which is curious. That said, to be honest, I say curious. I mean, they don't typically do that, but if I'm thinking that other things have now changed and there's a difference in the rotation between those that used to have to present their kit the very best, other horses off again. I'm not going to run along there because it's not important, but he's off. Let me step way back and just give you a view along the front here. Other horse doesn't want to settle at all, and the problem is the more unsettled the other horse is, the more this one's likely to have a little moment as well. It's rare that we have both like a double meltdown, but it has happened before. Extraordinary, to be honest. I mean, oddly enough, today feels more like a Monday. It's obviously not a Monday, but it feels very much like a Monday. We've got kind of Monday-like vibe, and the horses are behaving in a Monday-like fashion, which is exceedingly curious, I must say. Wait, let me just have a quick look at the time, guys, because I don't want to miss the opportunity to get in the yard. Actually, no, it's time to go now. There's 90 seconds between now and the actual emergence of the new horses. The thing is, by me going in here, I'm thinking the other horse might well quit. But if he does, he does. Yeah, it is what it is. Oh yeah. A lot quieter, isn't it? Flipping hell. Jinxed it. Oh, it's down to me, okay. It's true, guys. I mustn't utter that word here, actually. The police hate it when I say that it's quiet. Right, we'll focus on the stable area. Now, as you can see, the yard is absolutely packed with tourists. Look. Oh, wait. It's not. I bet secretly speaking, the stableman and the MOD, I'm going as back as far as I can get now. My backpack is touching the wall in the corner. That gives you virtually the entire yard in a single shot. I'm fully zoomed out. I'll move closer in a second once we hear the bell ring. I mean, it's looking up at the clock, it's less than a minute. Wow, is this the new reality, folks? Has a genius at the MOD sat down and calculated that if they remove the majority of pageantry that relates to the yard, it will also deal with the overcrowding issue in the yard because nobody will bother to stand here. I still think it'll be exceedingly busy at peak season, and I still think it will be very busy during guard change days because people are here overwhelmingly for the horses and not for the relief foot guard. But we won't have very long to wait, will we, to find out. There's the bell. Easter will be the barometer for what we can look forward to or not. Okay, who's next? Oh. Okay, so a semi-repeat of yesterday. Couple of horse. There are actually, guys, it's the smallest number of people I've ever seen across the yard watching this. To my left, that is. I'll show you in a minute. There are 5 people, that's it. Oh, horsey just spat all over the corporal of horse's perfect cloak. Dribbled all over it, look. On his right arm. That's unfortunate. Cheeky horse. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating, folks. There they are, 5 people, including one person filming. So basically 4 tourists. That's it. Yes, there is a decent number at the tunnel side, but wow, I've never seen the yard this quiet, even at Christmas. Even when it's 0 degrees, it's never this quiet. Trying to keep both horses in the shot, which I can just about do, I think. So, this beauty made it to the end of the shift. In fact, they both did, which, to be honest, folks, I would bet against were I a betting man, based on what we saw earlier. The danger, of course, is that with so much more attention on the horses going into tourist season, we might see more meltdowns. I say the danger, I mean, in one respect, yes, people do like to watch it, it is interesting. But in another respect, we don't want the horses to revert to the previous state of having like a major, or in some cases even a quite epic meltdown, pretty much every other day, or at least once or twice a week. It was predictably regular before. I don't think anyone wants to return to that situation, because it shows that the stress levels on the horses are, I use this word carefully, arguably unacceptably too high. Does that make sense? You know where I'm going with this. Okay, so we're obviously going to finish off this as a full part, folks, which means that mini addendum from yesterday is going to have to wait. This end, same trooper that was here, I think, in part 2 yesterday, also known as the extraordinary Blues and Royals Gates Manator. Oh yes. The Blues and Royals do have their own Gates Manator, and it's this fellow here. Let's get back a teeny weeny bit. It's very hard to decide actually which end, in all honesty. I think I'll probably split it depending on which end is busier and where I see more people. Anyway, so that's the horse we have at this end. Teeny bit spinny actually, the weather, and that trooper. And at the other end, we've got Zammers, who actually we did have Zambezi out yesterday. He's back, and he's about to look at the camera hopefully. Mr. Zambezi, hello. You see, or is he going to look away from the camera? Oh, look at his. Hold on one second. Let's leave him for a second. He's he's relieving himself in the box. I did wonder why he'd lifted up the tail in that fashion. That certainly explained it. Wait till he's finished doing his business, and I'll go back. I don't have an umbrella, so it's actually quite fortunate, folks, that we made it this far into the video without the rain hitting. It's spitting, it's not raining, so we might well be good. But I'll do my best to finish off, even if it starts to pour. The horse is still getting adoring looks, aren't they, from the tourists. That I'm pretty sure is the regular gent who often comes along and feeds an apple to the horse. Not today, though. No, he didn't. I don't know why he didn't. He did have a quick look, and then he decided to walk on. I feel the raindrops on my hand actually. Let's keep our fingers crossed, folks, that it doesn't impact. The other thing is, one thing that will be super curious is what's going to happen on the day we get a lot of rainfall, heavy rainfall, and both of the archways are vacant. Now we know, because we've seen it in the past, that tourists would enter there even when there was a guard present. If we've got 2 empty arches and an empty tunnel and no visible personnel, is it not exceedingly likely that people are just going to invade in large numbers the archways and the tunnel? I mean, I think yes, in all honesty. That's what I see happening next. Point is, every single change we've been through here, and there have been many in the past year, more in the past year actually than the past 100 years, would you believe? all of those changes have led us to have doubts about this or that, or will it affect filming, will it affect interactions between tourists and horses, etc. You know, it's endless. Each time we've had a potential blip in the road in that fashion, things have returned to relative normality and settled down pretty quickly. So I see that as being a huge positive. In other words, this place does one thing above all else, folks. It endures. Just like many things British. Okay. Group have arrived. They can't quite decide whether they want to go ahead and bother the horse yet, so they're just standing there. Zambezi's like, oh wait, I can't really tell if the horse is gesturing to the trooper to go back in the box, because the trooper's hand on the reins is so subtle as he moves. I can't really tell if he's manoeuvring the horse back. As a non-rider, I can't tell. I think it's a bit of both now. The horse wants to go back out of the rain. At the same time, the trooper's assisting to pull him back out of the rain. Teamwork, folks. Oh, this gent, I don't think has even realised there is a horse there. Look. He needs to get back to his office and eat his sandwiches. What I will do actually after I finish this is take a very clean and clear picture of each of the empty archways, which is something yesterday I forgot to do. Because we've managed, luckily, to capture each time there's been a change here. Every time the signs have changed, every time something has been modified, we've caught it. So for the purposes of continuity and the record, I'll take some pictures of the empty archways before I finish up today. At both ends there are a lot of people, but they're just not, at least at the moment, they're not choosing to approach. What about Miss Orange Trousers? What do we think? Maybe not. Definitely tourist of the day in terms of the outfit. Look at that. It's like a pair of Skittles decided to turn itself into a piece of clothing. Maybe she's sponsored by Skittles. Absolute colour explosion in a glorious kind of way.
Okay guys, if anyone wants a photo, give me your camera and just pop in there and I will do the deed. Outside the white line.
Move myself across a teeny bit. It's a tour group that just arrived. This tour guide has the natural movement of a dancer. Very impressive. Oh, sorry guys. His posture when he takes the pictures is very impressive, actually, I must say. I'm not taking the mick, I'm being deadly serious. Very elegant. I think you'll all agree, folks, spirits have most certainly not been dampened. It's the third get out of the box already.
Go on in there guys, I'll sort it out for you.
I thought the girl was part of the group. She was just a completely separate tourist. Here she is back. So let's move around a teeny bit. Can't see so much here. Very funny.
Really cute.
All right. Camera face on again. Alright guys, we're going to head down Whitehall here.
The tour guides group is far too large, folks. I was very tempted to ask them, but it's not. It doesn't feel like it's fair. You know, people are paying for a tour. It's not really fair for me to be sort of butting myself in. But I will. I promise you, on quieter days, I will ask some of the main tour guides what are their thoughts about not only about the changes, but about the potential impact on summer season here because of those changes. Okay, the whole of France is just walking by the camera right now. So an even Euro split today, pretty much. Spanish, Italians and French. Plus, of course, this girl is really yellow. Just patiently waiting. Super awkward.
It's nasty.
Oh, the dirty look was. I don't think. Well, he's right in the box. This trooper just told him to get out of the box as well. Oh goodness me. Okay, so all the troopers are reading from the same card today, folks. Box is off limits. In other words, I told you not to worry too much yesterday, didn't I? Look, she's still standing here. She was before all of these other people, and they're just taking their good old time. If somebody walks in front of her this time, I guarantee she's going to tell them, hey, I'm next. I don't understand how it takes this long to get a picture. Your friend is literally the most patient tourist I think I've ever seen here, I swear. Multiple times she was in front and people just push in. It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah, just on
Okay, here she is.
It's a usual situation here.
It is big time, you're right.
Yes. It's lovely here. Sure. Thank you, enjoy guys.
You too. Some people are so incredibly polite that they just don't want to say to somebody else, look, I was first, or you pushed in, or excuse me, it's my turn. I kind of admire that actually, in some ways. But at the end of the day, she was there first. Okay, someone else going to go in the box? I'm very keen to see if somebody goes right into the box, what sort of response they're going to get from the gatesman that we all admire. Now the other thing, guys, is we have a regimental handover tomorrow morning. Lifeguards will be back. Now I honestly have no clue what we can expect in terms of consistency. Will they follow through with what we've seen today? In other words, absolute unequivocal enforcement of the box, or will they be a bit more relaxed like the troopers were yesterday? No idea, folks. Honestly, I've got absolutely no clue. We are regrettably close to the end. I mean, I'm surprised because, I did mention potentially splicing together yesterday's footage, but we don't need to, which I guess is a positive. Oh. It's still got some super group shots here. If we're honest, folks, the one thing that would make this location far less interesting to film at would be the absence of tourists. Now, curious as it might sound, if we had a choice between the removal of the foot relief permanently or the banning of all tourists permanently, which would you choose? Now there's a question. Think about it. Which would you choose? Foot relief or tourists? You can't have both. You have to have one or the other. So in other words, they'd completely change the layout here. The horses would be completely out of reach, but there'd be no foot relief and no tourists would be allowed into the yard or anywhere near the horses. Yeah, I know. That would be a real tricky one, wouldn't it? Because if there were no tourists here, then fundamentally there's nothing to look at. Yes, you can look at the horse and the guard, but if there's no interaction and it's the same thing constantly, you wouldn't want to watch it, would you? Continuously. Point being, the change could be a hell of a lot worse. Yeah, dramatically so, thinking about it in all honesty. Really dramatically so. As usual, Zambezi, so chill. Sadly, I don't think we'll ever get to see Zambezi and Pagan out at the same time because they're in different regiments, but as the two most gloriously marbled of the horses, they would make a fine pair, wouldn't they, in the boxes? A very, very fine pair in the boxes. Maybe. We'll probably see Q10 before then. Right, we'll finish up at this end for a couple of minutes, and then I'll take the pictures in the yard of those empty archways, as I mentioned before. Good to get some reference shots as opposed to just screen caps. As it's now overcast, raining a teeny bit and everything else, the numbers are still healthy. Look.
Going now.
Yeah.
What happened to the people who were there before? They're gone or they're still there?
Wait, which people?
The people who were in town.
Ah, no. It means that the troop number that comes over when they change over will be fewer than before. So we'll see tomorrow morning. If you're here early, then we'll see how many come over in the morning. That'll be an interesting thing to see. Also, folks, we don't have very long at all to wait until we will start to see summer order. Oh yes, that will be coming up before my holiday. Done? See you soon, yeah? In fact, it's almost like there's an invisible barrier. Look at how many people there are. Look, packed with all these tourists and stuff, but no one's going forward. Curious. But there we are, folks. I think this might have been the most informative video in a long time. I hope I sort of dropped enough information without oversharing to settle down everyone's worries, because I know a lot of you are concerned about, you know, the future of this fine, long-standing establishment. But guys, if there are any other things you specifically want clarified, please feel free to ask in the questions, and if I can answer it directly and unambiguously, I will do so. From Vivian Westwood here, and myself. She gave me a wave. That's it, folks. Here's our last tourist. We'll be back very soon, as ever. Bye for now, people.